Win a Pageant, episode 28. Do you need some high-paying pageant sponsors? I want to teach you how I got $3,000 from one sponsor. You can sign up for free at getpageantsponsors.com. See you there. Hi winners, welcome to part 2 of your pageant budget. I'm your coach, Alicia Darby. Last week I discussed the required expenses to just enter a pageant, and I gave you a few tips on how to save some money. Now, if you want to follow along with the full budget, you can download it from the show notes on the website at winapageant.com. Now, in this episode, we are going to start with the elements of pageantry that you're sort of expected to have or to do, even if they aren't necessarily mandatory. So, of course, you guys know I'm going to start talking first about coaching because it is so important, and you really are expected to have some type of preparation, at the very least, just some mentoring to really prepare you for the pageant. So what you can expect is about 10 to 20 hours of coaching prior to your very first pageant. Now, this is for the women who are competing at a local level. So at a local level, of course, it's a little bit less competitive than a state, national, or international pageant. So, of course, the higher and higher you go with those pageant systems, the more and more coaching that you will have each year to prepare you. But you want to budget for about 10 to 20 hours. Now, I'm going to create an episode for you about how to actually choose a coach and what to look for in coaching, what you might need, because there are, in-person coaches. There are people who are professional coaches who've been doing it for many years. There are very new coaches who are still very professional. There are lots of people who do it part-time, and so there are benefits to working with someone like that as well. So I'm going to save that for another episode because that's a whole different teaching topic. But first, I want to, a lot of those things make for a different hourly rate. So I want to share with you what you might expect. For somebody who is working at a very small level, so they're not coaching tons and tons and tons of girls, they might not have a ton of experience in the industry, or they're kind of just getting started. They might be charging anywhere between like $30 and $50 an hour. So it's really possible to get an extremely inexpensive coach. When I first started coaching, this was when I was getting my master's degree. I first started coaching, and I'd had a little bit of experience, but only with one pageant system, and it was only in one region of the country. So at that time, I was charging $35 an hour, and that went on for a long time until I got my master's degree. So I started to understand a little bit better of how to coach. At that time, that I was charging about $75 an hour. Oftentimes, I've seen coaches charge up to $400 an hour. My coaching now begins at about $150, depending on if you've been a part of my programs before or not. And then it can be $250 an hour is the most I charge hourly. But what you want to look for, the best way to save money in this case, is to look to purchase packages. So most coaches will sell a coaching package. The value of that is both for the coach and for the contestant. Because when the contestant knows that she's going to be coaching just with one person, it makes her life so much easier. Plus, it helps a lot with the coach because then the coach doesn't feel like she has got to communicate with a million other coaches to figure out what the girl's brand is. They're all pointed in the same direction. And then the benefit of that is that you can plan ahead. So I know when I work with my girls, I create a curriculum for them so that it's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And in between each of the steps, they have certain things that they need to do on their own without me. And I can trust that when they show back up, they're going to have accomplished those things. The reason that this is so helpful and the reason it saves you so much money is because instead of buying just 1 hour here and 1 hour there, when you're doing that, you are wasting a lot of time, your own time and your own money, because in the first 15 minutes or 30 minutes of the coaching call, you have to catch up. Okay, so what have you already accomplished? Where are you at? What have you done? Who else are you working with? What do you feel like you need the most? It's like all this stuff just to figure out where you've been. When you buy a coaching package, all of that's taken care of because it's like, okay, bam, we just finished our session. I'm going to talk to you next week. So the coach is already keeping you at the top of their mind. That is so, so valuable. So coaching, really, really important. Another thing that you are pretty much going to have, even though it's not considered quote unquote mandatory, is a photo shoot for headshots, usually with hair and makeup. Now, if you got your senior pictures done, you may have spent like $60 on a sitting fee, which is just for the photographer to set up their space. That's the sitting fee. Then they charge you an additional amount for images and an additional amount for editing, and maybe even an additional amount to get those images on digital. However, the best way to do it in pageantry is to work with a pageant photographer. So a pageant photographer typically charges you one fee, and that includes everything that you need. So it typically will include hair and makeup, or they'll at least be able to recommend someone that they work with for hair and makeup. That is a huge, huge, huge thing, because you want a pageant photographer to work with somebody who understands pageant hair and makeup. That is absolutely huge. You don't want just some Mary Kay artist showing up. You need to have the fake eyelashes. You need to have very powerful eyes and glossy lips and all of the contouring and stuff. So really super important to have that. And it's also really important because there's definitely a specific look. There's definitely a specific way to crop the images. You want to have big earrings, and so the photographers that work in the pageant industry know this kind of stuff. Plus, they're not charging you all these extra dollars for editing and extra dollars for prints and things like that. They know that you're going to need at least 3 images on digital copy, and then they know they need to be edited, so they're going to automatically include that in their fee. If you were to work with a photographer that is a pageant photographer, it is likely going to charge you at least $300. And that is like a bare minimum. That's someone just getting started in a small town without a lot of clients, okay? They are out there and you can totally find them. But the people who I've seen in the industry, generally, the most inexpensive and amazing that I've seen is about $800. So that's where I got my pictures done with Tess Johnson in Pennsylvania. She is so excellent. Her photography is absolutely stunning, and it's really, really practically priced, But you may even spend more like $1,000 or $2,000, even $3,000, depending on how many different outfits you want to put on and how many different looks you want to have and different sceneries and edited fit photos and things like that. So depending on more stuff you add on, the more and more the price goes up and up and up. Now, the next thing that's really, really important, it's going to be expected, is that you have some level of a tan. And it's just a tan. It doesn't need to be like you are from Hawaii or something. It just needs to be a deep enough tan that makes you look beautiful from stage. So tans on stage under those bright, bright lights help to even your skin tone. They help to draw away from those veins that might stick out. I know I always have veins sticking out in my arms because I'm super lean. So I have these veins like popping out all the time, And so without a tan, it can look really see-through. Now, I am not at all suggesting that you do a tan in a tanning bed or even outside, actually. I suggest a spray tan. Most of the girls competing in pageants do spray tans for 2 reasons. Number 1, they do not want to be laying outside because they do not have time for that. Number 2, they do not want to be laying in a tanning bed because they don't want to have wrinkles when they're like 35. And the third reason is because it's the absolute simplest, quickest, easiest way to make it happen. So you could probably get a spray tan before you go to the pageant for about $30. So really, really simple. If you wanted to do something where you apply it yourself, you might even get one of those bronzing lotions like the L'Oreal Sublime, which I love. That's probably closer to like $10 or something. If you do it at the actual pageant, which the beauty of that is it will be very fresh, so it's not going to be peeling off and things like that. That's why that's so, so important. It might cost you closer to like $60 or so. So you only are going to need 1 or 2 before the actual pageant, maybe 1 before and then 1 while you're there. You probably really won't need much more than that because you don't want to be super, super dark either, You want it to look like yourself as well. So that is something really important to consider. Hair and makeup. This is huge. This really, really separates the professionals from people who are not professional. In fact, myself included. When I was competing in pageants for many, many years, I was just doing my own makeup and hair. In fact, I would actually go to a Mary Kay makeup artist. Now, Mary Kay makeup, the thing I love about Mary Kay makeup is that it's beautiful for every day. It's very light. It's very good for your skin, so it's not going to like make you break out and stuff like this. However, for stage, it is easily washes you out. It's for me, I have found it didn't really work. Actually, it didn't work at all. So what I found to be the very best thing is to find a professional makeup artist. Some pageants will allow you to invite your own. So if you're already working with a pageant makeup artist, then that should be a-okay. But if the pageant doesn't let them backstage, or they don't want you to work with anyone but the person that they bring in, their sponsor, then you will just want to go with the sponsor. It's the best way to do it. All of the major pageant systems do have a makeup artist that typically will come. The greatest thing about that is that they're typically backstage, so that they do touch-ups for you and they just make you look absolutely fabulous. A pageant makeup artist, somebody who understands pageantry, will know how to contour your face. They will know exactly what products to use for stage so you don't look melted or shiny or glistening in weird places. They're able to even do things like hide your nose a little bit. When I had my makeup done by Austin Ride, who I absolutely recommend, he's phenomenal. I would always joke that he saved me thousands of dollars on getting plastic surgery because really he made me look so good. I'm like, wow, he gave me a nose job with all that bronzing that he did. And my cheekbones are standing out. I looked totally amazing. From backstage, the picture is like, whoa, you wouldn't believe it doesn't even look like me to me. But on stage, it completely works. It actually looks totally normal from stage because the stage lights change everything. That's the value of having a professional pageant makeup artist. For one day of pageant makeup for just stage, you want to budget at least $600. Now, this would be for a major pageant, okay, a state pageant or something like that. Now, of course, you can always get it lower than that. You might be able to get away with $300, or if you bring your own makeup artist, they might be able to do it for even cheaper. But I would say start at about $600. Oftentimes, makeup artists will do more days than that. So if you want to do 5 days, or if you want to do 3 days while you're at your pageant, it's so recommended. That might cost even closer, about $1,500. So that's what you want to look for. That's what you want to be planning on budgeting for. I know that this is one of those ones that kind of sneaks in there. You don't expect it, but it's so important. It absolutely changes your look. And in pageantry, you're taking photos all the time. So it's really important to always have your hair and makeup looking spectacular. Okay, the next one is tailoring. Now, you will likely have to tailor your wardrobe at some point, whether it is your on-stage wardrobe or even your appearance wardrobe. I am so fortunate that for most of my years competing, I worked with a friend of my mom's who was actually the best the best seamstress that I've ever met. She was absolutely amazing. I would take so many things to her getting ready for a pageant. And then when I would pick them up, she would be like, okay, it's $30. $30. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I was always hooking her up with chocolates and tea and extra little gifts because she way undercharged me. So don't expect that. But if your mom is an amazing seamstress, then count yourself as very lucky. You really want to consider more like $500 for your wardrobe. Most gowns, when you buy a gown, they typically will have a seamstress in-house. If they don't have someone in-house, then they may be able to recommend you to someone that they frequently recommend people to get their gowns done at. For that, you're probably looking at around $80 or $100 if there's no beading or wacky zippers, on the side of the dress, and that's where it needs taken it at. If there's interesting extra things, like you have to have the shoulders taken off and then scooped up and put back on or something like that, it's going to cost a little bit more. So I would always budget about $500 for my entire wardrobe. That's typically what I would expect that you could probably get away with all of your entire wardrobe. If you're buying things that generally fit, it's probably only going to cost about another $500 to get things altered here and there. So that was what I would budget for. And then finally, they will likely expect you to have autograph cards. Autograph cards usually have your name and your title on them. So if you're going to a state pageant or a national or international pageant, you'll probably want to bring some autograph cards with you. Now, you could get autograph cards for pretty cheap if you printed them yourself. I did this when I first started. I was like, all the pros of autograph cards, I want autograph cards too. So I made up a little Word document and I put my photo on there and typed in my name, my title. They were really kind of janky, but they worked. It maybe cost me, $10 or something to print out just on the paper and ink that I bought, What I would instead, don't do that. Okay, that was when I first started. What I'm recommending for you is that you actually use a company like Vistaprint. Vistaprint is a really, really inexpensive company that prints things and ships it to you. So you would just create the design. You could do it through Vistaprint or in a separate folder and then just upload it to Vistaprint and then have them printed. And it might cost you like $25, something probably very inexpensive. That is what I started to doing once I was becoming more professional. So what I did was for my autograph cards, on one side, I had my image. So the photo, the headshot that I would use that included my name and the title that I was holding. And then on the back, I use it as an opportunity to promote my platform. So I would include my social media channels that I wanted people to follow, my websites, if I wanted them to join my program, things like that. So the autograph cards are something you can really use for marketing. And it's not going to be too expensive, but it's something that you definitely want to be aware of. Now, I broke this budget into these 4 parts because I don't want it to overwhelm you. Instead, I want you to really treat it like a professional would and allow it to help you to prepare for your upcoming pageant. Because that, ladies, is how you win a pageant. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week where we talk about a budget for wardrobe. See you then. Hey there, I'm Alicia Darby, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching that last video. If you totally loved it and got something from it, would you just click subscribe right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel? Hey, I am here for you, and I've got so many more trainings and videos for you. In fact, this one would be a really great one to watch next. Or if that topic doesn't interest you, then try this one. It's my most recent video training. So I think both of these would be really great for you. Thank you again so much for subscribing. I am honored to be your coach. I'll see you again soon.